So APT is the Astronomer's Proposal Tools. It's the program you will use to prepare your proposal to request time in JWST Cycle 3. It will indicate which of the information fields is required. It will check your observations for errors. It will help you determine if your observations are schedulable and how to fix them if they are not, because you are required to submit a schedulable proposal. It will compute the total time in hours, including slews and overheads that you will be requesting. It has a tool to allow you to review your whole proposal in PDF form, and a tool for you to submit your proposal for consideration. Now, where do I download APT? If you do not already have APT, you can download it at the website apt.stsci.edu, and it is available for Mac OS, Linux, and Windows. Where do I go for help? There'll be a roadmap button in APT that will take you to some general information, and I'll show you that in a minute. There will also be context-sensitive help, which I will show you in my part of the presentation. There are articles and movies under the JWST help menu item, and these are very informative if you're particularly confused about a subject. And finally, the JWST help desk is available at the website jwsthelp.stsci.edu. So once you have downloaded APT, you just want to start it. Okay, so I hope you can see the menu items up here. This is the menu bar, and there are options such as open, retrieve, save, copy and paste. There's also APT training materials under the JWST help menu that I mentioned, and this will take you to a browser page, which will show you JWST APT video tutorials, for instance, and there are videos about several subjects, and I find these to be very useful if you're confused about any one of these particular topics. Now, I also mentioned that there would be a roadmap button for help. That's over here on the right. You click the roadmap button and it will take you to another web page, which gives you all kinds of information about proposing with JWST, deadlines, user documentation, and so forth. Now, there are several parts to the APT GUI. I already talked about the menu bar up here. Down here is a list of tools that you can use. That's called the toolbar. And we're going to download one of the example proposals. You'll notice that there are JWST demonstration proposals as well as JWST example science proposals. And you can download any of these to get a look at what a proposal might look like. I'm going to download one just so that we have something to look at as we look at the toolbar. Okay, so now you can see that all the tools are active. The form editor is the tool that you'll be using to enter most of your information in this large window. There's a spreadsheet editor that Beth will talk about later. There's an MSA planning tool for our multispectroscopic array. That's quite a detailed topic, and we don't have time to cover that in this session. There's a visit planner, which if you click on your observations, will show you when your observations are schedulable, and Tricia will be going into that in a lot of detail. There's also a timeline, which lays out what your observations are going to look like, which observations are going to go first, etc. There's a tool called Aladdin, which allows you to visualize your observations with a picture of the sky behind it, and that allows you to check that you're looking in the right place, that you're getting the coverage that you might want on your chip. There's a target confirmation button. This takes a while, so we're not going to demonstrate it today, but it will give you a confirmation chart with a sky image so that you can check to make sure that your targets have been entered correctly. There's a PDF preview, and this will give you a preview of your entire proposal, including the observations as well as your scientific justification in PDF form. Once you have filled out your entire proposal and you're happy with it, this is the submission tool. And if you have not submitted before, this button will say submit. If you have submitted before, this button will say resubmit. And once you submit for the first time, you will be given an ID number. That number will be kept as part of the proposal file. And if you wish to submit again to update your submission, to change something or tweak something, it will know to just update the submission. It won't be a completely new submission. And that way you could submit something well before the deadline and then perhaps make an adjustment right before the deadline if you find that you want to make a small change. There's also an error and warnings tool, which will show you all the errors and warnings that you might have in your proposal. Errors are red X's, they look something like this, and warnings are yellow triangles that look something like this. You can see that this warning says that slew times are provisional until smart accounting has been run. And Tricia will talk about that when she talks about the visit planner tool. Now, on the left is what we call the tree editor. And this displays the particular parts of your program. There's a proposal information folder, a target folder, and an observation folder, for instance. And you can see these little carrots on the left. If there's a carrot, that means that there are more forms, more information at a lower level. So if you click on that carrot, it will open up the other parts of the proposal, and you can see the other parts that go in the proposal information. You can see your target folders and your fixed targets, etc. So I'm going to close this proposal. And I'm going to show you how to start a new JWST proposal from scratch. So you want to go up to where it says New Document and click New JWST Proposal. Click back to the Form Editor and you will see in this window the required fields, which have the red X on them. The red X means there's an error right now, and the error right now is simply that these fields are blank. So we're going to enter some information into these fields. Now, I mentioned that once you submit, you'll be getting a proposal ID, and that is still something that you can't change, but it would go in this box. There is nothing there yet because we have not submitted yet. The next thing to choose is your category. Most people will be submitting a GO for General Observer program, but you can also choose a survey program, an archival research program, or director's discretionary program. If you're uncertain what those categories mean, you can use the context sensitive help, which I mentioned. If you just click on one of these categories, you'll see, or hover over one of these categories, you'll see that your mouse has a little question mark behind the cursor there. And if you click on that, it will bring you to documentation specifically about that part of your proposal. So here you can see the definitions of JWST categories. Now, the next button is for pure parallel proposals. It's just a checkbox. If you're doing a pure parallel program, you will need to check that box. We're not going to talk much about pure parallel programs because they're quite different from the General Observer programs, and there usually aren't very many per cycle. The cycle is already chosen here at 3 for you. The science and charged time and data volume are all blank right now because we have not put in any observations yet, but you will see those change as you enter your observations. If you would like to request time in future cycles, not just cycle 3, you click this button where it says future cycles, and that gives you some time, a place to enter how many hours you would like to request in a future cycle. You can change the units here from days to hours, minutes, and seconds. Hours is usually what is requested. This proposal size small, just like the science and charge times, will update as we add observations, but it starts at small. The exclusive access period, the default is set to 12 months. That's how long you have to use your data without the rest of the public being able to access it. But you can change that to a smaller value, and sometimes that's useful for particular kinds of proposals to show the Telescope Allocation Committee, the TAC Committee, what you want to do with your data and how soon you're willing to share it with the community. Now, you will need to choose a scientific category for your proposal. We're going to choose galaxies. You will also need to choose several science keywords. It hopefully says down here that you will need to choose 2 to 5 science keywords. So we're going to choose galaxy disks and galaxy structure. Now, the scientific category and the science keywords are both used to decide which panel of the TAC will be discussing your proposal and which people should be the main reviewers for your proposal. So we have several different categories: solar system, galaxies, etc. And we want to make sure that the people reviewing your proposal are those that are most familiar with your type of science. If you wish to request time on some of our coordinated telescopes, you can click on that button there for coordinated telescopes, and you can ask for time on all these different observatories: Chandra, XMM Newton, NASA Keck, etc. Now, every proposal will require a PDF attachment. This will include your scientific explanation, why you're doing what you're doing, supporting materials, the duplication justification for anything that might have already been observed. And if you hit this Browse button on the right, it will allow you to choose any PDF file on your computer. Now you'll notice that all the red X's on this large screen are gone, but there's still a red X here on proposal information. And that's because there are fields at a lower level that we have not yet filled out. So in the observing description, you're going to want to describe your observing strategy. Under team expertise, you're going to want to explain why these are the why these are the right people to be doing your project. Now you're going to want to give a principal investigator. I'm going to enter myself. You can enter a last name and click this magnifying glass, or just hit return, and it will bring up people that it thinks you might be referring to. And you'll see that I'm the first one on the list here. So I'm going to hit select as the PI for this program. If you do not have a MyST account, you can get one and therefore enter your name if you're not on this list by clicking Add a New Investigator. And that will take you to a web page where it will lead you through applying for a MyST account, which is fairly simple. So I'm going to select my name. You'll notice that one COI is provided here, so I'm going to add Beth Perello. And then you may often want more COIs than just one. So you'll see there is a new COI button up here. You just click that and it will add a new one so that I can add Tricia to the proposal. Now you will notice under PI that the contact button is checked, but it is also grayed out. You will notice under COIs that there is a contact button here that you can select. So if I select this contact for Beth Perello, then she will receive all of the automatic information about when my proposal might be scheduled, whether I had time allocated to me, and other things that are automatic notifications that our tools send out. So if I click her name, then she and I will get all of those emails. Okay, so now that we've specified all of our general information, we're going to talk about how to specify a target. And there are three kinds of targets. There are fixed targets, moving targets, and generic targets. We're not going to talk about moving targets, as those are a little bit more complicated and a fairly small section of the general observing pool. But we are going to talk about a few ways to specify fixed targets. And the first way would be to click this Fixed Target Resolver button. That brings up a box, and you can just search for the name of your object, such as M51. And you'll see it goes off to the Simbad catalog, it finds the object, and it provides the coordinates, and you can select this object as your target. And you'll notice if you open the targets section now, we have a fixed target folder, and inside that fixed target folder, we have an M51 target. You'll notice that the coordinates are filled in, but not everything has been filled in. We still need a category. So we're going to say it's a galaxy. And we still need 1 to 5 keywords after selecting a category. So we're going to call this a galaxy disk. Now, this category and description are simply for the archive so that people looking for galaxies or disk galaxies can search on that when they are searching the archive. The last button on here that we might want to specify is that this is an extended target. Now, this specification here is recommended for spectroscopy proposals, as it says, as there are different reduction algorithms in the pipeline for extended targets. If you're not going to use spectroscopy, it doesn't really matter whether you answer this question or not, and that's why there was no red X to start with. Now, the second way you might want to specify your fixed target is simply to type in all of the information yourself. So we're going to go up to targets and go to new fixed target. And this is letting you type in all the information yourself. I'm going to type in the information for an exoplanet that was recently observed with HST. This is an exoplanet, so it's a star. And I'm going to choose exoplanets, as my keyword. And then I'm going to enter the RA in the deck. Now it takes the RA in the deck just like you would write it down on a piece of paper with hours, minutes, and seconds separated by spaces. Now you'll notice that this one has a negative declination, and the negative just goes in once in front of the degrees. You don't need to add it to the minutes and seconds. It knows that the whole thing is negative. Now, some targets have proper motion, and this target happens to have proper motion, so we're going to enter the proper motion here in RA and deck. You need to choose the units that your proper motion is in. There are several possible choices. This one happens to be in milliarc seconds per year. And again, you need to select the units for the declination proper motion. Now, if you have a proper motion, you need to enter an epoch. The coordinates are the coordinate system, J2000, but that doesn't mean that these coordinates refer to when this object was actually at this position. That is your epoch, so we're going to enter an epoch of 2016. Now, some targets also have an annual parallax, and this target has an annual parallax as well, so we're going to enter that. And even though we may not be doing spectroscopic observations, we are going to say that this is not an extended target because it is a star. Now, I said that there were several types of targets, and the other one we're going to talk about today is a generic target. Generic targets are used for target of opportunity proposals, among other things. Something that you want to observe, but you won't know exactly the coordinates of when you're proposing for time. So if we go back up to targets, we can hit new generic target. So we're going to say that we're going to be interested in a supernova. And we're going to enter some criteria about what kind of supernova we're interested in. Are we interested in a type 1 or a type 2 supernova? Are we interested in a supernova that's in a particular galaxy? Are we interested in one at a particular distance? So we're going to say that we're interested in supernovas between a redshift of 1 and 3. And if you'd like to enter that in a more English sentence, you can do so in the comments. Okay, so now I have entered several targets that I might wish to use in my observation folder. But I still have some warnings that you might be worried about over here. So there are several ways to look at warnings. You can either hover over the warning, which it was doing just a minute ago. There we are. And it will show you in the tooltip that it is only a warning because this target is not used in this proposal. And that's just reminding you that you haven't made an observation on this target yet. There are several other ways. I mentioned that you could look at it in the errors and warnings tool. So if you click on the errors and warnings tool, you will see all the diagnostics for this proposal. And there are 3 warnings, 1 on each target, and they're all the same. There's a third way to look at your errors and warnings, and that's to click down here in the bottom right where it says 3 errors and warnings. You click on that and it will bring up your errors and warnings in a little dialog box. And you can click on each element that has a diagnostic and see the warning.